Alright YouTube, today I'm going to be doing another magazine video. I know this is going to be the last one for a while I think. But anyway, I wanted to share this one because I purchased these two magazines as original Colt parts. And these things I don't believe are... They're not original, but they're licensed parts, but they're sold as OEM. So I wanted to compare these things to some actual OEM 1903 mags just to see how they would work. I bought these to shoot with because I've been using these magazines a lot and they're really getting a lot of use and beat up and scratches in the bluing. And these things are so old, I really don't want to beat them up too much more than this. So I'm just gonna compare these real quick and see and show you a few differences and whatnot that I noticed from these magazines. And later I'm gonna take these out to the range and see how they perform. Because a lot of the problems with these aftermarket magazines or these replicas and whatnot is that they just don't work. They don't work right. They don't fit into the gun properly. They don't feed properly. And that's the reason why these magazines are so expensive. But let's take a look at these and compare them just side by side. If you look at them side by side, actually the body of the magazine, the construction and whatnot, everything seems to be pretty similar. A few things that I noticed. Okay, let's look at the base plates here. If you look at the base plates side by side, I'm going to try and line them up. First thing you can notice is that the font or the stamping on the bottom that shows the Colt 32, it's flipped. So one of them is flipped the opposite direction. This is the original, this is the aftermarket or the licensed Colt product. You see on the base plate towards the back, the welding and the pressing or the crimping of that didn't really seat as nicely as the original one did. And there's a few small gaps that you can see in the middle. In the middle there, you don't see on these particular original mags. Here's the other one. Take a look. You see at the base plate where the heel mag catch chips off the bluing over there, but there's no gap like this one has. You can kind of see that gap in there. But overall, the construction of the magazine, the feel of the magazine is similar. You can see the stamping in of the base is a little bit lighter. You can see the original one here. The stamping of the crimping in of the base plate is really not as pronounced on this licensed product. If you look at the color of the bluing, the bluing doesn't match. I mean, the older ones, the bluing is a little bit lighter in color. It's kind of hard to tell on camera here, but the bluing is not the same color. The bluing on this aftermarket magazine is more of like a parkerized finish, I guess, but it's kind of a real low rent bluing compared to the original magazine. But otherwise, I don't really care. Actually, this magazine, they offer a two-tone one that's supposed to kind of replicate this, and it's also OEM or licensed product. But the thing looks so hideous. I'd really feel terrible putting into my gun because the bluing really just doesn't look proper. That two-tone effect that they're trying to go with it. But otherwise, from looking at it, this magazine seems to be decent. Alright, now, how does it fit into the gun? Alright, let's check it out. She's clear. So I can show you guys there. Alright, I'm not going to push on the heel mag catch much because I want to see how much it scrapes up the back of the mag. Alright, she's seated in there. Hopefully you guys can see. It's a bit of wiggle. Kind of see that. It's just doesn't fit in there snugly. Let's look from the top. From the top, I mean, I can't really tell any big difference. It seems like it fits in there properly. But if you see I pushing on the table right here, it kind of pops up and down. When there's a round in there, it's probably going to negate that effect a little bit, but we'll see. Alright, so it doesn't really fall out as nicely as the other mags do. So let's see. Let's try to load it up with some rounds and see how they stack in there. These are some reloads that I did. They're actually S&B sized, but they're Starline brass, berries plated bullet, and let's see if it fits. So far they're stacking no problem. There's not any unusual resistance or any extra difficulty getting these rounds into the mag. Sorry, she should be loaded, but let's try and get another one in there. Oh, you can almost get an extra round in there. That's interesting. Alright, well you can't get an extra one in there. So everything stacks fine. Let's try and put it in the gun. Alright guys, we're here at the range. So far these mags have been operating flawlessly. No problems yet.
They say you go to the back strap. You go to the back strap and you unlock it from the back. No more. I think there's plenty. I think there's plenty. I think
Okay, took these to the range and we're going to compare them now and see what they look like with a little bit of wear on them. If you can see in the follower, let me try to get that thing to focus. You can see a little bit of wear in the follower just from feeding the rounds off of it, but no problems with the magazine at all. If you compare it to this one here, we can put it side by side. This is a little bit different. This is a different magazine from the first one that we were using. But I'm going to put them side by side so we can kind of get a little bit of a better idea of the dimensions. One area where I did notice that it doesn't particularly match up that well is with the followers. If you look at the follower, the original one's on the left side, it has a little bit of an angled tip to it. The right side is the licensed one, and it doesn't have that angled tip. And the follower itself looks a little bit different. Along with, you can see the angle of the follower. The original one aims up a little bit higher. I'm not sure if that's because the feed lips in the back are a little bit spread out over time. Not quite sure, but anyway, it's worth noting. And see the wear patterns on the magazine. You can see a little bit of wear from the heel mag catch there, but nothing really. On the back, you can see a little bit of scraping right along the middle portion. Let me see if I can get the light right. Yeah, you can see that scrape right there. And that happens from the heel mag catch as it goes up into the gun. One other thing I did notice too is on top of these, there's a small little seam or a little crack or a little dimple kind of thing there on the top. And this one also has that. You just can't see it as much. This one in particular, you can see that. It doesn't seem to affect anything. I'll keep an eye on it as I keep shooting it, but it doesn't affect the performance any that I can tell so far. Okay, got both the mags apart now, so we can compare the internals. If we look down the center, yeah, you can't really see it on the camera, and I can't really see it that well either. But you can see light kind of poking through on this one because of that little gap on the end. But otherwise, they have approximately the same feel and fit and finish to them. Here's the followers, and like I said before, you can kind of see that rounded tip over there. It's not the same. Let's see what the back end. So otherwise, they're mostly the same, but they're not identical. Definitely not identical. And the angle that they're at is pretty much the same. So whatever is causing one to ride higher or lower than the other is a factor of the lips, the feed lips. Now let's see these magazine springs. One thing I noticed when I was taking the mag spring out of the new magazine was that it was very stiff and it had a lot more energy compared to the original magazine. But overall, the length of the magazine spring, I don't see any real difference. You know, if there's any extra compression on it or not. This magazine wasn't particularly used a whole lot in the gun, so this new magazine is pretty similar in style and construction to the old one. If you look at the tips, the little hook portion is a little bit different. It's a little more rounded on the new model. And the color and the finish of the spring metal is a little bit different too. You can kind of tell right there. And both these magazines are dirty. They have a little bit of powder and junk inside them. Here is the newer one, and there's some strange scraping inside there. That's the bottom part of the follower on the licensed Colt product. And this is the original one. We're almost back together here. Just putting the follower back in there. Let's fix that spring. And there you have it. Overall, for $40, I'd say this licensed Colt aftermarket, whatever you want to call it, magazine is going to do the job just fine for being a shooter. If you're trying to use this on your actual gun as some kind of a showpiece or something like that, I would definitely not use this as that kind of piece. But if you're just taking this out to the range, it's a good beater. All right. So here's a Woodsman match target, and this magazines here aftermarket, and these are from K magazines. So I'm not sure what it was called, but anyway, you can see the back end has to notch it out, otherwise the rounds kind of get stuck in there. And the feed lips, you also have to kind of modify them a bit, otherwise they don't work. But that's the downfall of having these aftermarket mags versus something that's factory.